Stories unfolding beneath the gray skies. Local hearts.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Hey Bellingham Podcast. It's a podcast about all things Bellingham. Each episode, we chat with local business owners, artists, musicians, and other community members to learn about their stories and what makes Bellingham so special. We also share tips on where to eat, drink, and play in our beautiful city. Whether you're a longtime resident or visiting, Hey Bellingham is the perfect way to get to know your community. So sit back, relax, and enjoy listening. Hey everybody, thank you again for joining us. I'm your host, Kyle Gillette with Cheung, Vong, and today we have Lone Pine Auto Glass and Tyler Johnson with us. Lone Pine Auto Glass was created right here in Bellingham in 2024, and although they are a new store, they are not new to the world of glass repair and have nearly 8 years of experience in the industry. The store was founded with two goals in mind. The first goal, to perform the work at the highest level of the trade, no matter what. The second is to educate the public and the customers of the importance of choosing highly skilled and knowledgeable technicians to work on their vehicles. Here at Lone Pine, they don't aim to be the biggest, just the best. So please welcome with me Tyler Johnson to today's episode of the Hey Bellingham Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome again to another episode of the Hey Bellingham Podcast. We're very excited here to have Tyler with us from Lone Pine Auto Glass. So Tyler, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
Good. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what inspired you to jump into auto glass repair? What is that story?
Yeah, so when I graduated high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And so instead of going to college, even though I got accepted to some, I didn't want to just start accruing massive amounts of debt to float around and pick random potential careers. So instead, I moved from Texas to Montana and got a job at a pizza place, managed that pizza place for a few years, wanted to find something that could actually be a career. And so I floated around some more. I managed a warehouse for a small company. And a friend of mine was doing fireplaces and hot tubs. He was running a store. And so he hired me. And the owners of that store eventually wanted me to run it, but I hated it. I woke up every day. I was working, like 16 hours a day. It was running me ragged. I just didn't like it. And so I talked to a friend of mine that had been doing glass for 10 years at that point. And I was like, I need a career change. And he was like, come work for me. It's like, okay, awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And instantly there was something about it. There's so many small details, and I love finish work. I love attention to detail. I love learning and figuring out how I can be really good at something. And this just had all of that for me. And, it was physical work, but it wasn't too physical. And yeah, there was just so much to learn and so much to do. And I just kind of saw a career potential for me.
Nice. So what brought you to Bellingham? And obviously there's working for a business that does auto glass repair, and then there's moving and opening a business that does it. So what got you to that point in your journey?
Yeah, so I've got a family in Seattle, Tacoma, and Bellingham. So I grew up visiting the Pacific Northwest like every year. Always loved it. Always wanted to live here. Same with my girlfriend. She always loved Bellingham and Seattle. So yeah, like 3 years ago, we had the opportunity to move out here, and we just did it. We said, yeah, absolutely. Why not? So we did that. And I always knew that starting my own business was going to be my end goal. I've written like 12 business plans throughout my life on like different things that I wanted to do. So I always knew that I wanted to do it in some capacity. And then this just made so much sense because I knew that I liked the work, and I woke up every day, not worried that I wasn't going to like my job. And I was good at it. So it just had all the potential and stepping stones.
Nice. What would you say have been some of the bigger challenges opening this business, and what have been some of the victories?
The hardest things were just being able to be given the chance, because there's two ways that you can do it. You can start mobile out of a van, or you can have a storefront. And when you start off mobile, your overhead is really low. And so it's super easy to do. The biggest thing is just having a space to store the windows. But I really wanted a storefront because it allows for more growth and more capabilities, more services that I can offer. Like new cars have lane departure warning systems on them. So anytime the windshield is replaced, that has to be recalibrated. And doing that out in the field can lead to pretty serious issues and not being able to perform the recalibrations. Whereas when you have a store with nice, consistent lighting and flat ground, you can do that really easily. So, yeah, it just made it was what I wanted to do, was have a storefront. But being given the opportunity to have a storefront without owning a business was hard.
And I didn't think about how the mobile version, there's all the new technology in literally inside of windshields, I guess, or wherever it is.
Yeah, it's brackets that the cameras mount to. And
Okay.
so, you can get an OEM, get a Toyota factory window, put that in a new Toyota, but they might have installed that bracket a millimeter off. So that bracket being installed off, the curve of the window, maybe that window sits 2 millimeters lower. You can get bad readings from that camera, and that system will recorrect your car back into the lane. So it's a safety issue, right? That could cause an accident in the wrong circumstance.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow. That makes me think about liability for you.
Yeah. Well, that's why I do recalibrations.
Right.
So
Exactly.
is that just a quick question about the windshield and the technology? I don't know much about it, but
Mhm.
does that have to do with like, like somebody being like the safety features of a car? I don't really know what the
Mhm.
terminology is. So the windshield has something to do with that safety features?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's a new system. It started being implemented pretty commonly back in like 2017, but starting next year, 2025, every new car manufactured, it's going to be a required feature. Kind of like how backup cameras, when those were first coming out, it was like a big upgrade for cars. And starting in like 2017, that was legally required to be a standard feature for safety. So this is the next step in that. It's basically the next step before like self-driving. But yeah, they're really high-tech cameras mounted to the windows.
Oh, interesting.
And
So,
there's a lot more safety to glass than people realize. It's not just about visibility.
hmm. So tell us about, what do people not know about your industry that might be pretty interesting or even helpful for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So most people think, okay, my windshield is there to keep me safe and allow me to see. And yeah, that's true. Like it's stopping rocks, but that's what most people think. But there's a lot more to it. Glass is super strong. So windshields are what we call laminated. So there's two layers of glass and a layer of lamination between the two layers, and that holds them together. So that's why when you get a rock chip, it doesn't shatter into a million pieces like a door window would. It's like one little spot and it'll spread from there. It's because it's plate glass. So that is important, and it's important not to be smacked in the face with a rock going 65 down the interstate. But it's
Or
also,
a bee on your neck right here, riding a
yeah,
motorcycle.
yeah,
I've experienced
exactly.
that. That hurts. Anyway,
Yeah,
continue.
it's not fun. Yeah. But glass is actually part of the structure of the car. So the materials that we use, I have to use special primers for both the body and the glass. And then the glue that I use basically turns into an industrial rubber. And so 99% of cars don't pass rollover tests without a properly installed windshield.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's really, really important. And then passenger airbags, most of the time. So you got your driver airbag comes out of the steering wheel. Passenger airbags are in the dashboard, and they will go up and then bounce off the window to save your passenger's life. So if you don't have a windshield installed properly, that airbag is going to knock that windshield out, and you're not going to get the
Hmm.
airbag safety that you need from that. And I mean, this is all worst case scenario, but it's better safe than sorry.
Sure. I mean, when there's a collision, who knows how that's going to jar the vehicle, and if it's not installed right, the windshield's not
Mhm.
going to stay in the right position, and all kinds of things can happen, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Huh. So can you
And
tell
then
us? Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was going to say the installation process. I mean, if you know what you're doing, it can it's one of those things that if it looks simple, it's because you're really good, right? Like there's a lot more to it than people think. And then just the small details. 99% of my work, no one is ever going to see, because it's all hidden. You've got the glass, and then you have rubber strips called moldings that surround it, and it just hides all the gunk. It also allows water to flow around the window better, but dirt, debris, everything's going to get underneath there. So you have to cut that old glue away. And anytime a car has a new windshield in it, I know instantly for a couple reasons. And I know what to expect and what I'm going to need to fix, because most people don't take care of that area properly. They scratch, which causes rust, and eventually that car can't have new windows put in. So I go out and I buy special, super expensive tools that almost make it impossible to scratch the car and cause future issues.
You're making me feel a little guilty about the way I'm taking, because every once in a while I'll walk by our van or my car, and I'll notice there's a little bit of grime or a little bit of not, I guess it's mold, I'm not sure, but there's just a little bit here and there, and I'm like, man, that's probably not a good thing.
Well, it's not great, but I mean, we're also in the Pacific Northwest,
Yeah,
so
it's
it's just
tough.
going to happen.
Right.
But water is one of the most corrosive things in existence. It's super, super corrosive. So there's a couple of tactics that I employ when I am installing a new window and laying glue. And so the whole design, right, is for water to flow down into the edges. And so if you lay your glue and it's wavy, that's all these areas where water can pool, and that's going to eat through clear coat, paint, primer, and start to rust your car even without scratches. So yeah, there's a couple things that I do. I do glue on the window. And if you go to like my website or social media pages, you'll see these pictures of like glue on the window itself. And it's just like, it almost looks like it was extruded from a robot. And it's, that's important to me because your car is one of the most expensive things that you own. If you don't own a house, it is the most expensive thing that you own, and it should be taken care of, and you should have somebody that wants to take care of it for you.
Right. 100%. So you mentioned water is corrosive. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience with you're mentioning a story about an F-250 that had a lot of rust issues. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I was helping a guy in Redmond with his business, and I had this customer that he had bought the car used. It had one windshield replacement 2 years ago, and the person just caused a bunch of scratches where, of course, you'll never see. And 3/4 of the way around, and I've got pictures on my website and social medias of it, but the rust was so bad it almost rusted through the frame of the car in a couple spots.
Wow.
Just it's dangerous at that point. And so I ended up spending like 2 hours grinding all this rust down to bare metal, and I have a non-corrosive primer, and so I have to do two coats of that, and it also adheres my glue to the car at that point, because otherwise, I mean, you're gonna have leak issues and all kinds of stuff, safety issues. But one window, one time, 2 years ago, caused irreparable damage to this car. Basically, all I was doing was restarting the clock to the best of my abilities. And that shouldn't happen. This is a $60,000 truck that this guy bought, that he's looking at $30,000 in body repairs just to bring it back up to where it should be in the first place, because somebody didn't care.
Wow. So that makes me want to ask the question, okay, so he had a windshield replacement 2 years prior to that.
Mhm.
When do we know as the vehicle owners to replace a windshield? When do we know? Obviously, if it's cracked, we get that, but is there other times when it's wise to replace?
Um, when it's really old, if you haven't had a windshield replaced in like 5 to 7 years, I do like to recommend that it can be worth it. So that window is going to get pitted from the road. It's like, it's super abrasive sand and everything. It's going to affect your visibility, and also those materials break down, right? Glue and everything is going to have a shelf life on it, especially being exposed to, the sun all the time. UV is, and it's going to break all those materials down. So it is nice to get your windshield replaced every so often. But it's also not something that has to be done. If you have had a windshield replaced and you start to see rust start to creep up from underneath the window, get it replaced as soon as possible, so we can correct the issues before they get way worse and potentially to a point where your car is totaled because of it.
Wow. I never really would even think about that being an issue.
Yeah.
Corrosion on the, because that's kind of an important section of the car to not be
Mhm.
rusting. So that makes sense. 2 years ago I bought a F-150 that had I didn't know it, but they basically sprayed over the rust underneath. And so
Mhm.
I imagine there was issues everywhere else too. And so it was one of those vehicles that was just a lemon from the start, and I missed it. Um, but that's fascinating to me that it's a $30,000 repair to get the frame fixed of that
I mean,
not brand new, but that truck that the guy got. So that's
you're
rough,
looking at a whole new roof and all kinds of body repairs just to fix this tiny little thin metal strip that, we're talking about an inch in thickness, but what has to be done to fix it is so much larger.
right? Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So you said you and your girlfriend were really interested in moving out here. You like the Pacific Northwest, and can you tell us a little bit about what drew you to it? What are the things that you really appreciate about Bellingham and Whatcom County?
Oh yeah. We've always loved smaller towns. She grew up in San Luis Obispo. We lived in Bozeman, Montana. A lot of people are familiar with Bozeman. So we love smaller, tight-knit communities where it's not just faceless people passing each other on the street, because there's 6 million people that live near you. Um, the mountains, the water, there's so much to do outside. It, yeah, the fall is great here, and not having to deal with as much snow as we did in Montana is
Hmm.
always going to be a positive.
So I lived in San Luis Obispo for 12 years. Uh,
Okay.
I went to college there, stayed there afterwards for a little while, and then met my wife, moved there. Long story short, she moved there, and then we ended up moving up here because her family
Mhm.
was originally from here. So moving from SLO, where it's sunny and beautiful all the time, to here
Mhm.
took me about a year and a half to get used to this weather. Just like
Mhm. Yeah.
rainy and anyway, it just took a while for me to get used to it. But that's pretty cool, that common factor. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So do you have hobbies or things that you really enjoy doing out here?
Yeah. I love to mountain bike. I need to get more into it. I got in a bad wreck a couple years ago, so I've been pretty skittish about getting on the bike ever since then. But yeah, I love mountain biking and hiking. We used to have a couple kayaks. We sold those when we moved out here just to make the move easier. Um, yeah, the water is fantastic. And then I also play the drums. So yeah, looking to get, yeah, some music going again here pretty soon.
Sweet. Can you tell us a little bit about like the music scene for you, and talk to us about restaurants and places that you'd recommend people to check out if they're either new to here or just need a reminder, like, oh yeah, that exists around here.
Yeah, absolutely. I love Black Sheep. That's still one of our go-to spots. The first time, so when we were moving here, we did a road trip and we were looking at a bunch of different towns in the Pacific Northwest. We knew we both loved Bellingham already, but we wanted to give other places a shot. But Black Sheep was the first place that we went when we got into town that first night, and that was amazing. And we love it. And we still go back there all the time. But for pizza, Oven in Fairhaven is top notch. They
Hmm.
are so good. When we lived in Redmond for a short while, there's a pizza place there called Spark that was really good. And they're one of the top 50 pizza places in the US. I think Oven is better. That's just me personally.
My
So
wife,
Wow,
my
that's
wife
an
is,
endorsement right there.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
my wife is gluten free and dairy free a lot of times, and she thinks it's the best gluten-free
Mhm.
crust. But yeah, oven's great. We love it too.
Mhm. And
Well,
yeah, they've got goat cheese options, and they even have like vegan cheese and stuff. So
Yeah,
I mean, yeah,
yeah.
they
Okay.
can fit anyone
You know,
in.
their ovens like got shipped here from like Italy or something
Mhm.
crazy.
Yeah, from Naples. Yeah.
Very expensive
Yeah,
oven.
it's like 6 tons or something, like a
Yeah,
12,000 pound stone
yeah.
oven that they
I
have
oh,
can't
shipped.
wow.
imagine how they ship that here.
Hmm.
I think we may have found a new guest to be on our show, Chung.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
need to
totally. We should
grab
have
the
them.
owner of that place for sure.
You should, yeah. Yeah, they're great. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have heard about Estelle in Fairhaven, but that's it's a new French restaurant owned by the guys that own Carnal and Accomplice. And I've really wanted to check them out. We went in one night just for a cocktail, and it was great. It was an awesome atmosphere, but I really want to try the food.
What's
Yeah,
the
I'll
name of
have
the place again?
that on the list.
It's Estelle.
Estelle. Sorry, Chung. What'd you say?
No, I was just gonna say I need to put that on the list. I don't know if I've heard of it, but
Yeah, it's newer. They just opened up I want to say like 6 months ago or something
oh,
in that
okay.
location. Yeah, and there was a bar in the location originally. They closed down during COVID, but it's really cool, like retro 1920s Art Deco style interior right
Oh, okay.
downtown Fairhaven. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
Mhm.
So, Tyler, when you think about starting a business in Bellingham,
Mhm.
and maybe there's some listeners that are intrigued themselves, they want to start a business or it's something that they've been considering for a while. What is the one thing you would do differently if you were going to start your business again? What would you do differently?
A lot. Um, yeah, I mean, that's a big question. I mean, really, I would say the biggest thing is if you want to do it, you just got to do it because it's never going to be the perfect time, right? I was always waiting for the perfect time or the perfect location or the perfect this and that. And ultimately, I did get a great location. I'm really happy to be where I am in the Haskell Business Center by Frank Cherry Field. This is where I was originally looking. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's always going to be compromises that you have to make, and sacrifices that you have to make, and you just have to do it if you want to.
Yeah, I think it's a learning process. You know, anybody who starts a business, it's you grow with it. You grow with your business. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, you're learning and you're doing things differently and then you do things better, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You're you're constantly adapting.
Yes. Yeah. Like, I had a ton of industry experience. I've been doing glass for like 8 years now, or almost 8 years at this point. And I know all aspects, the repair side, the replacement side, the insurance billing, the software. But I thought I had a good handle on it, but starting the business was just, yeah, something that I thought I had a better handle on than I actually did. And I think no matter what, that's going to be what happens. There's going to be a lot of things you don't realize, no matter how prepared you think you are.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and when you surround yourself with people that have similar experience to you, or you reach out to people that are in your same industry and ask for input and advice. Of course, as a coach, I would say hire a coach, hire a
Yeah.
business coach, because that always helps to move the needle a lot faster and more
Mhm.
effectively. But Tyler, I love what you've shared with us. Is there anything that you have for our listeners that would be helpful for them, or a way that they can learn more about your business?
Yeah. I mean, just give me a call. I'm always happy to share. I know I'm a little bit of a rambler. I probably ate a lot of our time sharing more details than I needed to. But yeah, I mean, I'm always happy to just give you details and be honest with you. I have customers come in this time of year that have a cracked window, and I'm like, you know what? Like, I make my money by replacing windows, but let's wait because, we have warm days out of nowhere and then freezing days out of nowhere. And if you get a rock chip, that temperature change is a lot more likely to make your windows crack spread further to need another replacement. So let's just wait until the weather's consistent. and do it then. I'm trying to save you money and time and make you happy and want to come back to me and see me as a person, not just a person or like a business.
Right, exactly. Do you have any sort of special offers for our listeners?
Yeah, I'm willing to give one lucky listener 2 free rock chip repairs. I charge $60 for the first one and $20 for any additional per visit. They don't have to be used at the same visit, so it's up to $120 value for a lucky listener.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate that. Tyler, can you tell us where you're located and how people can get a hold of you?
Yep, I am located 1420 Meter Avenue, Suite K 105, and that's in the Haskell Business Center. My phone number is 360-746-1830, or you can email me at lonepineautoglass@gmail.com. You can also submit quotes and questions on my website, lonepineautoglass.com.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us before we sign off here?
Just that Bellingham is a great place to live, and I feel lucky to be here, and I hope they accept me as one of their own, even though I'm a transplant.
I think all three of us are transplants to some degree or
I think
another.
a lot of people are transplants.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's a growing area, that's for sure.
Mhm.
Well, everybody, thank you again for listening to another episode of the Hey Bellingham Podcast, a podcast all about all things Bellingham. Each episode, we chat with local business owners like Tyler here, artists, musicians, and Tyler's also a musician, other community members to learn about their stories and what makes Bellingham so special. We also share tips on where to eat, drink, and play in our beautiful city. So whether you're a longtime resident or visiting, Hey Bellingham is a perfect way to get to know your community. So thank you again for listening, and please do subscribe and review our podcast. We appreciate it, and we look forward to dropping another episode soon. Thanks again.
Owners' voices bring it alive, sharing the secrets